Hello, Mr. Marks. Today I'm going to be talking about the relationship between science and religion for my inquiry reflection, because that was the concept that interested me the most out of everything we went over, and how science can coexist with religion and one doesn't disprove the other. A lot of people are on kind of like either side of science or religion, where they're like, oh no, I trust in science completely. I believe in the Big Bang Theory. God didn't have a part at all in creation. That doesn't make any sense. And there's also some people who are like extreme on the religion side, who are like, oh yeah, the earth is flat, all modern science is wrong. All you need to trust in is the Bible or the Quran or whatever it may be. And I'm here to explain how both of these sides are overly on the extreme, and there is a middle ground that's true. For the two readings, my two sources ended up being The Religious Response by Mary Pat Fisher and the interview of the guy from The Office, Rachel Martin. For my quote from The Religious Response, I got, "In recent times, however, there has been a return to a more religiously sympathetic worldview, and some of the leaders of this shift have been our most respected scientists." This is kind of like something that really interested me, and an example that I thought of when I read this was the guy who kind of like crossed upon the Big Bang Theory, who was actually a Catholic. His name was George Lemaître, and he kind of like proves just by existing that you can have a scientific belief like the Big Bang Theory and still be a religious person and believe in God, believe in Christianity, because they're not like conflicting ideas. Like, God could have done the Big Bang, and what the Bible said could have been like an explanation of the Big Bang in kind of a more alternative way, right? Like a day in the Bible could have been like billions of years or anything like that. Second quote I chose was a short quote from the interview that Rachel Martin did. Or no, the actor's name is Rainn Wilson. Rachel Martin is the interviewer, and Rainn Wilson is the interviewee. He said that, "I know that I love." This quote like really spoke to me, because after this he kind of went on to talk about how like love is a lot more than just like a chemical reaction in your brain. It's something deeper, it's something more spiritual. And this also kind of like fits into my thing with religion and science coexisting together, because like a lot of scientists say that it might just be some chemical reaction in our brain to another person or something we see that makes us love. But there's also like a more religious side of it, to where we can be a lot more deeply connected in love with a loved person or a love of God. It's something that can go a lot, can be formed by maybe a chemical reaction in your brain, but also goes a lot deeper in your heart, to form what we call love. The middle ground there would be that love, of course, stems from like something in our brain, kind of like all of our emotions, like anger, like happiness. They all like start with like some sort of reaction in our brain, but I think that love roots deeper into that. I think love is a part of the brain and the heart. I feel as though love can be influenced and run much deeper with the connections that we make in the real world, whether it be through God, whether it be through someone else, like one of our parents, or some sort of relationship. I think it goes much deeper than just the brain's reaction, but that's where it stems. So I feel like that's kind of a middle ground. So basically, I had to have a little bit of a change of scenery, but continuing off what I said earlier, love and science basically answered two different questions in two different ways. The idea of like those neurons firing in our brain for love is totally realistic, but there's also a deeper essence with like the love we hold in our hearts, and that can also apply to like the Big Bang, what George Lemaître was talking about, because what he was saying about the Big Bang Theory was like the more scientific aspect of how the earth formed, and he was not thinking about religion at all, right? Like he wasn't seeking to disprove it or seeking to show like why God doesn't exist. He was just thinking like the more scientific part and the more scientific reasoning behind it. So from my personal connection, I grew up going to a Catholic school, so kind of like all the stuff I learned about, we obviously had like science courses and everything, right? And it wasn't like those science courses tried to disprove anything in like the Catholic image that the school had. And all of my friends, all the people who grew up with me, also like maintained those beliefs, even learning about all the new scientific things. And when I came to St. Mary's, there was like a lot of people who were a lot more on the scientific side and kind of like used it as a justification for why they weren't religious or why religion shouldn't exist, right? Like people who were saying, oh yeah, evolution exists, so the Bible is wrong, and like God isn't real and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to get into like the whole evolution versus the Bible thing right now, but it's just that was like kind of a big change for me. And it helped me, and it showed me like it kind of strengthened my faith even more. And I was kind of thinking like, oh yeah, all these people, they believe the same scientific things as me, but they use it as like a justification against religion. And I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. I think they can both exist, and they both find a healthy middle ground, right? Which is kind of what I've been trying to prove this whole. So all in all, I myself have had a very extensive like education background in science. I mean, obviously through like the whole school programs and everything, as well as religion. Like I grew up going to church. I grew up like reading the Bible and knowing all of that. And me personally, I've just grown up believing in both of them, and I haven't been seeing any sort of fluke or contradiction that says the other is not true or is completely false. And that's just how I've grown up, and that's like what I believe now. It's kind of something I've always trusted, and that's why I chose it here today, because it's something I'm very passionate about and something I feel like a lot of people kind of just overlook, right? Because if science is true, then God can exist, and if God is real, then science can exist. Those are both like complete no-nos in my book. Yeah, thank you for listening to my podcast. Sorry about all the moving around and stuff like that.